Conversations from the Cave is a raw self-help podcast dedicated to discussing men's issues. From pornography to parenting, from religion to real life, from learning to loving. We discuss the real issues that affect real men every day. Join us each week for powerful, revealing Conversations from the Cave. Now your host, Kurt Kennedy.
I'm your host, Kurt Kennedy, and it is a pleasure to have each and every one of you guys joining us tonight. We're going to talk about a subject that is difficult, if not impossible, to mention in the company of men without all of us having some sort of reaction to it. Topic tonight is pornography, every man's battle. We are going to introduce our panel members. Mustang, can you give a shout out and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, this is Chris, also known as Mustang here. Small synopsis, I'm a voice talent. I've done voiceover work for companies like American Express, Yahoo, Intel, but also I'm a man. I'm a dad. I'm a father. I'm a husband. And pornography, which is today's topic, is definitely something I've dealt with before.
All right, let's go to BA. Big guy, check in with us.
Well, this is BA. Also, those initials stand for Brian Armstrong, born again, lived in Tennessee most of my life. Matter of fact, specifically Memphis. Born and raised there. And I'm just a Christ follower that's been struggling and fighting different things. And pornography is a big issue for all men, and I'm ready to talk about this.
All right, thank you so much, big guy. Nola, let's have you check in.
This is Nola 73, meet you where you at. Born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. My struggle is real with pornography. It's a long line of where I come from. And I'm a dad of 3 boys. It was a struggle just to maintain them, keeping them on the right track. So I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to keep it 100 with everybody that's out there and let them know that, once you open it up, it's hard to keep it closed.
Well, that's a great segue into our topic tonight, which is pornography, every man's battle. Let's head over to Mustang. Tell us about your journey, your first encounter with pornography, how it started for you.
First encounter for pornography with me was when I was a kid. I don't remember the age, but I was in Tennessee, which means I was probably I couldn't be older than 7 or 8, man. And to make a long story short, my brother brought it home in the form of a magazine. I looked at it, and I remember one phrase in there that I can't repeat on here that stuck out to me. I don't remember what type of magazine it was, but I just remember one phrase on there that stuck out to me when I read it, along with, whatever pictures. And literally, I thought of that phrase for years when I would watch pornography or when I would. That kind of was the beginning. That was kind of the gateway. And then I had gotten to a point where I knew when I got married I would stop. There's no question. Duh, you get married. There's your porno right there. There's your everything you need. And that didn't happen. I was actually shocked. And then as you begin to look at start out with nudie women and the female body. And then you start graduating to actual sex, and you start graduating to other things, and all of a sudden you kind of look around yourself and you're like, wait a minute, how did I even get here? Why am I looking at gorilla porn? I'm just kidding. But you get my point.
Right. Sure, absolutely.
And,
yeah.
And I'm sure some of the other guys in here would probably agree. You kind of look around after a while and you're like, I don't even know how I got where I'm at. And so, long story short, I came to God and was like, God, I need some help. So, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to breathe about it. I don't want to even be tempted with it. And I prayed for that. And then one day, boom, it was gone, completely gone. It was like I wasn't even tempted. It wasn't temptation. It wasn't a thought in my mind. I was able to work. I was able to function. And then oddly enough, a week or so later, it came back. And it came back pretty strong, almost like a relapse. It's still one of those things that kind of fades. I have it under my thumb now. But, who's to say a month later, 3 weeks later, I won't be fighting it, getting ready to click them out. But, I'll get ready to leave and not get on there, and watch it, and then I'll get ready to click on a site, and I'll click, and I'll stop and exit out, and then go take a walk, then I'll come back and click on it and open it up and look for it, and then no, I can't do that, and then I'll come back, and it's a struggle.
Yeah, I think for every guy, regardless of whether or not you're 17, 16, 14, 10 years old, all the way up to pretty old guy, I think the biggest challenge for anyone is once you're in it, recognizing that how there are triggers. And the journey that happens because there are different triggers for the behavior. And there are also chemical issues that happen with any addiction. Mustang, you mentioned that you are a believer. I know that BA has checked in as a believer as well. But is there anything wrong with pornography? I mean, have we established that it is the wrong thing to do? It's readily accessible now, and as a Christian, how do you define it as right or wrong? BA, can you check in on that?
Well,
is it right? Is it wrong?
Well, I'll just put it this simple. A sin is a sin is a sin. Because that pornography, how do you look, in my opinion, towards Christ and glorify Him through pornography? As I see it in my mind, you can't. It's a fight. It's a daily battle. It's like every day when you wake up, especially for me, you guys kind of start a clean slate of, God, I know I'm going to sin. I know I'm going to fight today, but help me and my mind stay focused on being the best man I can be.
It's clear that from your perspective as well, you feel that as a godly man, it is impossible to have those two together. Do you feel the same way, Nola?
100%. The reason why I said it is because you have to look at it through spiritual eyes.
What does that mean? We've got a lot of guys checking in. They don't know what the heck that means. What are spiritual eyes?
Okay.
Why do we have to do that?
When we talk about spiritual eyes versus the carnal eye looks at everything and sees what he want to see. The spiritual eye looks at things and say, you know what? I accept those people where they at, but I'm not going to lust. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to diminish. I'm not going to tear down their self-esteem. I'm not going to talk about them. When we're looking at God and we're trying to see things through God's eyes, we have to look at God is accepting me just like I am. He don't talk bad about me. He don't look down upon me. He's trying to help build me up. So if I'm looking at my brother or my sister and I'm looking at them saying she's the negative word or calling her this or saying he's this and he's that, then I'm looking at them through the carnal eye, which is the judgmental eye of a human. So when we talk about spiritual eyes, we're talking about how do God look at us? Does God talk bad about us? No. He'll talk to us. He'll try to meet us where we're at. He'll try to help us right there in the midst of sin. And I can tell you that it's personal because he did it for me. In the midst of my sin, in the midst of me looking at pornography, he said, what are you doing?
What is the downside of pornography? Because a lot of people don't see any harm in it, especially given the fact that it's so readily available nowadays.
In my opinion, just one small thing I noticed, and I believe the guys that are out there listening, and these guys are going to agree with me. There's no question asked. If you've been watching pornography for more than 6 months, you'll agree that the negativity, this is just one of the many negativities, but let's just start with one, is you start off very simply. And it's just like a stair step. It's a ladder. And this is not even going into a religious, it's not even going to a Christian base. This is just a beginning with the nudity of a woman. You may start off with just the raw sex between seemingly consensual sex. And this is just based on the fact that we may think all pornography is consensual, which I have doubts, strong beliefs and doubts that it is. But let's just say that it starts off as consensual sex and that's what you're looking at, or nudity and that's what you're looking at, Playboy magazines, et cetera, et cetera. We have all gone from, and I dare say anybody is still looking at that same one or two images of a man and a woman having sex, or just a woman that's just there naked. We've all gone from that to a stair step, maybe a man and a woman and another woman, maybe a man and a woman and another man. Maybe we all know the list goes on. You've gone from looking at, well, I don't want to get into people, any people tempted or anything like that and thinking all this stuff. And but my point is you can see it we all know that when you want to make electricity, put the plug into the socket. Okay, boom, you make electricity. We know that 2 sockets together don't make electricity. 2 plugs together don't make electricity. 2 plugs in a socket don't make electricity. Long story short, we all know what it is that does that, but we want to start feeding, and the things that we began with are duller and duller, and we lust for more and crave for more.
That's a
until
big
we start
word.
getting to a place we don't know where we're at.
Yeah, that's a big word. You brought in the word lust, and I think that's a really, really a big struggle because there are lots of types of lust. When talking about pornography, and you mentioned, Mustang, about the gradual increase in the types of imagery, the explicitness of the imagery that tends to characterize the addiction to pornography. I want to touch on 2 points real quickly, and then we'll get back into this discussion. Number one, what if there's a guy who says, well, I'm not like all these other folks. I can just watch one of these things and go on to sleep. Like I can have one beer and I can head to sleep. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not a pornaholic. There's first that notion of, hey, if I got it under control, then I guess I'm not having a problem. I can just take a little of this and enjoy it for what it is and then go on about my business. The other part of it is the big word of lust. And I think this is really the pivotal point that we want to sort of, when you have a life that is full of lust, whether it be the lust of pornography or lust in terms of fixing your eyes on another man's wife, or lust, we're talking about coveting when we think about lust. A lot of times we want something that may not be within our reach, or we want to fill a selfish desire with means that are not necessarily appropriate. One, can you control the addiction of pornography? And secondly, how do you deal with the issue of lust? BA, can you chime in on that for us?
Wow, that's a tough point to make. Control is such a easy thing in our mind to do, but when you have control of something, it's something you continually do, you focus your energies on. As you say, control, I'm thinking with this issue with pornography, for me personally, in my opinion, is completely impossible to control the issue of pornography, because in my mind, it's a sin. Sin is evident in all men's lives, believer or non-believer, because it causes the issue of pulling away from who God is in our lives. It gives...
I think I'm hearing what you're saying. So first you're saying it's not... You're not in control. Potentially, you're not in control. You might think you're in control, but maybe you aren't. And then secondly, if you are a believer, then there is some consequence to the committing of an act of lust, and we call that sin. Nola, do you want to chime in and give us your perspective on control versus the notion of maybe this isn't lust? Maybe I just have a little dabble, do you?
Well, first thing I would say is I would challenge anybody that think that if it's just lust, prove it. And the only way you can prove it is to challenge evil with good. Mm-hmm. And when you challenge evil with good, you have a clear perception, because one is going to always overrule the other. We are all adults, and at the end of the day, we all know right from wrong, whether you are a Christian or not. We know right from wrong. It's something that is given to us at birth. We choose to do wrong when we're kids. It's a choice to do wrong when we're told no. We become aggressive. You can't tell me what I want. If I want pornography and I don't see it harming me, then you can't tell me that it's bad. Why? Because it's not doing nothing to me. So I can watch one just like I can drink one beer. But the reality is you will never know how far of sin you're in until you have a positive reaction. You can't just be all negative and not have positive, because then you will never know where you at. You can't be all positive. I can't say that I'm a true Christian if I never experienced negativity.
Okay, can I comment? I want to comment on that if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So, kind of to his point, which I really, really like. And also, now I think about it, I do want to go back to your point too, if I can.
Sure, absolutely. Sure.
So, you were saying, hey, listen, I can have one watch, I can have one beer. And again, this is for, I believe in Christ, I believe in God, but I know that everybody doesn't. So we're not even going to touch on that, because to me, if you believe in it, you believe in it.
Sure.
And that's wonderful and great. If you don't, you don't. So you're like, well, I don't understand. What's wrong with me doing it? Okay, here's my thing. So my argument is that pornography aids sex trafficking. Okay, that's my argument. Okay. Now that being the case, since I just said that over the air, and every man heard one guy say, my argument, repeat that, is that pornography aids sex trafficking of innocent women. Now, every good man out there now has the burden and responsibility to either investigate what I just said or ignore it. Okay? Right. So when I worked in the bank, we had money counters, and if anyone in the bank, whether it was a customer, a bank teller, or employee, anybody said, hey, I don't think this money is accurate, everyone had to drop what they were doing and go count that money, because there is a good bank. And I'm not going to say the name, but it was a good bank. So everybody dropped what they're doing and reinvestigate that. Now, it could come up that it was right and it was just fine, or it could have come up that it was short. The same thing. So now that you hear a voice that you may have never heard before say, hey, listen, I believe that it aids sex trafficking. I believe that they'll take young girls like our daughters, like our wives, if they can get a hold of them, and literally sell them to men for sex by us clicking on pornography sites or buying from pornography sites or clicking on the free stuff, because we all know it's free stuff, then now it's on us to actually go out there, to every man listening, to go out there and actually investigate on his own and say, you know what? I don't want to be a part of that. Maybe I don't care about the Christian part.
Okay. So you're saying that there is a societal mores, which we can say, hey, you know what? We've got half of our population potentially being victimized by being pressed into the acts of pornography. We have sex trafficking, which might put our wives, our daughters at risk. But for the single guy, I mean, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. For the single guy at home who's, he's got his computer and maybe, a little lonely. What's to say that a little clickety click isn't how is that really harming anything? It's already made. I mean, I didn't tell her to go do that, and frankly speaking, I mean, if I don't watch it, somebody's watching it, so I'm not really stopping anything by not watching it. I mean, how in the world is that really effectively causing me problems? I would like to offer an additional argument, which hasn't been made tonight, which isn't biblical. It isn't related to faith. It's related specifically to the impact of an addiction on the biochemistry of a man. And here's the thing that I want to tell you, and having a health sciences background,